Hi, I'm Brooks Smith, a GIS analyst here at Clearion Software, and today I will be sharing some of the community engagement opportunities Clearion is involved in and hopefully inspire you and your organizations to expand your impact for the benefit of your community. Just a little bit on my background. I worked as a GIS field specialist for a large GDOT contractor for 3.5 years. We managed the broadcast and low volume herbicide spray on roughly 9,000 miles of right-of-way. Using sophisticated spray sensors and tablets equipped with Clearion, we captured GPS spray paths for every single route 3 times a year. And I used this GIS for historical record keeping, herbicide inventory, and business reporting. Here's a great quote. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. One of the ways Cleary and Esri work is by putting the work of many together on a map. This process intentionally creates connections, connecting data to real places, real roads, real rights of way. The power of the data stored in Esri today is a culmination of the collaboration of hundreds of thousands of people. Clearion built itself on that data by creating vegetation management applications tailored for utility and transportation organizations. Clearion and our customers benefit by working together to share critical knowledge and build a truly robust system. And while Esri and Clearion are certainly realizing the benefits for our customer base, we also see tremendous opportunity for expanding our collaboration and benefits to our community. These connections, just like any relationship, take time and effort to gain momentum. Clearion has put in that effort and facilitates these connections to solidify their workflows and to make them accessible for our wider Esri community. And our work has not gone unnoticed. Earlier this year, Esri awarded us the Partner Engagement Award for the programs we have put in place and the progress we have made to create better communities. Today, I'd like to share some of those programs with you. Our first example is one aimed at the local community. The inspiration for the project was born from the idea that we could help our crews be more efficient. We found that one vector for planning work included removing debris to locations typically found in the suburbs. The distance to dispose of waste often increased the time or the amount of crew members needed to complete work. In the case of vegetation management, they could shred the waste into wood chips to compress loads, but the distance was still there. So how do we shorten the distance? Well, we all know that one man's trash can be another man's treasure. So the key was to see if we could find new places on the map to unload wood chips, ideally for someone who benefited from them. This led us to the Grassroots Grower Alliance. Their mission is to distribute that hyper-local produce into food insecure communities across the city of Atlanta. They create community gardens in elementary schools, women's shelters, and minority neighborhoods. These gardens rely on donations to survive, and wood chip donations would be hugely welcome to help landscape and as mulch to help regulate soil temperature and moisture. Here's a demonstration of how utility contractors can locate the closest wood chip site that is in the chips needed status. They can then drive out to that location with a chipper like truck and dump that at the location, empty it out, and once they're done, they can change that chip site back to chips not needed. Our next example starts with the right-of-way as habitat working group. Founded by the talented folks at the University of Illinois Chicago, they seek to engage utility, railroad, and departments of transportation as well as key groups across the US and Canada in open, constructive discussions, knowledge sharing, and problem solving. One of the things they found working with their stakeholders, largely transportation and utility companies just like yours, is that a lot of people in the industry want to positively contribute to ecosystem improvements. They also found that energy and transportation right-of-ways already contain a lot of existing habitat and have a number of unique important characteristics that make them ideal for monarch and other pollinator and wildlife. The next step was to bring them together, and they did that. UIC partnered with 40 companies. Some of the most prominent are listed here, including Clearion. This new partnership was formed to work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to create the Monarch Butterfly CCAA, or Candidate Conservation Agreement with Assurances, which we finalized earlier this year. The agreement starts with a voluntary pre-listing tool that non-federal land managers can enter into to proactively commit to do conservation to support an at-risk species, in this case, the monarch butterfly. In exchange for doing that voluntary conservation, they receive regulatory assurances that if the species were to become listed under the Endangered Species Act, that no additional requirements or restrictions would be put on them beyond what they voluntarily committed to doing as part of their enrollment in the agreement. This is truly a win-win-win scenario. Right-of-way organizations can mitigate risks from looming legislation. Fish and wildlife saves millions on administering a federal project to protect these creatures, and the monarch butterflies get intervening help now when they need it most. There is the potential to create more than 2 million acres of habitat across the U.S. along energy and transportation lands as part of this agreement, which is a really big deal to an important pollinator that has lost between 90 and 99% of its population in the last 20 years, depending on your state. The first step to making this agreement work was standardizing the way we capture and store pollinator habitats within UVM geodatabases. The Central Geospatial Database tracks where and how habitat is being managed on energy and transportation lands, facilitating collaborations and partnerships between organizations. It provides a really valuable tool to communicate the conservation value that energy and transportation lands are providing with partners and the public in general. And it is an important mechanism to be able to engage with resource agencies like the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and state agencies to help inform future species listings like the monarch butterfly. We've also developed a custom assessment tool to describe the value of pollinator habitat with a common language and consistent valuation method that can be used across energy and transportation sectors. The pollinator habitat scorecard is available both as a printable paper form as well as a digital form using the Survey 123 platform. This tool supports voluntary monitoring as well as compliance reporting with the Monarch CCAA. So here's a current snapshot. There's 26 partners contributing data, tracking over 3,000 acres of habitat, 795,000 acres of habitat committed through the CCAA. And here are some of the goals for this year. So they are aiming to get 50 new organizations registered by December 31st. And they aim to have, 30,000 acres of habitat, 4.5 million milkweed stems, and 150,000 monarchs supported. And you can follow this link here or use the QR code to find out more information, and just that's a good way to stay informed. All right. I'll also talk about some of the initiatives we're doing with Zoo Atlanta. So we save wildlife and their habitats through conservation, research, education, and engaging experiences. Our efforts connect people to animals and inspire conservation action. So we're actually involved in two separate community engagement opportunities right now with the zoo. One of them, and the first one I'll start with, is the Browse program that we are jointly involved in with Georgia Power. Let me talk a little bit about what browsing is. So browsing is when a herbivore feeds on leaves, soft shoots, or fruits of high-growing, generally woody plants such as shrubs. And similar to the Grassroots Growers Alliance initiative that I previously mentioned, the Zoo Browse program helps mitigate wasted resources. So in this case, after a removal or a pruning operation along distribution or transmission lines, the debris from that removal and that vegetation management work can be piled up, and after that pile is put in place, the utility vegetation management contractor has the ability to add browse sites to a map, and they can set the status of that browse site for ready to pick up. And then the zoo's horticulture team can then send out their team to collect that browse. So what would have just been wasted and maybe thrown into a wood chipper can actually be left on the side, if it's certain species that these browsers like, and the zoo will actually come and pick it up. So here we see, one of the keepers at the zoo, getting some of that browse ready for one of those browse species. And on the map here, you can see how they interact with the GIS. They can locate a ready for pickup location. They can navigate to that location, load it into a truck, and basically say, okay, that pickup is completed, and go on back and feed that to the animals. So here are some browsers munching on what would have been wasted resources, but instead has turned into a fresh, delicious treat. So once again, one man's trash is another animal's treasure. And now let's talk a little bit about the second zoo initiative we're involved with. And this is centered around donating bamboo and making pandas really happy. So in this initiative, I feel like we're really getting citizens, your average citizen, not any nonprofit organization or utility or nonprofit. We're letting the citizen who wants to be involved with one of these great initiatives can just basically go right onto the zoo's website, and if they navigate past the Panda Cam, which is a live video broadcast of pandas sitting in hammocks eating bamboo all day, you can actually click on the bamboo donation link, and you can pull up a form, and this form is going to allow you to add your address as a potential donation site. And the form allows for you to do a little bit of a pre-assessment, so you can go in and let them know your contact information. You can say there hasn't been any kind of pesticide, herbicide, insecticides used on the bamboo, and you can also make mark that no animals have come in contact with this particular patch of bamboo. And once you've done that, your bamboo site, your potential bamboo site, gets loaded into a geodatabase. The zoo's nutrition team can basically see that, oh, there's a new pending bamboo donation site. And based off whether that is the species they're looking for at this time of the year or not, they can move it into a, ready for pickup status. So someone could go out from the zoo's nutrition team, make sure that this patch of bamboo meets all the requirements, that the nutrition team needs that bamboo to meet. They can then harvest it, load it into one of these very large trucks, and bring it back to the zoo. And the reason that they're doing this is, pandas, these giant pandas eat 80 pounds of bamboo every day. Um, and it's not exactly something you can just go find at the grocery store or even at a food supply store. But what's great is the pandas love the bamboo from in and around Atlanta area. And people love to be involved and be the one who helped feed pandas. So this is a really great opportunity. I'll also point out one thing that we've enabled in this GIS uh, system, and that is the pandas can send it back. So of the 80 pounds of bamboo that's fed to giant pandas every day, typically they will turn down about 1/3 of that. And based off what they don't eat, the zoo nutrition team can capture that information. So if the pandas don't like the bamboo from one site, they can either, remove it from the geodatabase, or they can maybe leave a note to say, watch to make sure if they even like this patch of bamboo, and then potentially it could be removed later on. So we want to become your partner in your journey and have an opportunity to champion your future success. Learn more about these initiatives and more about our company by visiting Clearion.com. And if you have time, if you have questions or just want to chat, make sure to come over to our booth. We're at booth 414, and we'd love to talk and hear what you guys are doing, or show you some of the other stuff that we're doing. But if we don't talk, I just hope everyone has a great rest of their conference.